this is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's Smackdown time. Here we have the little guy, the iPhone 5S, and the new big kid on the block, the LG G3. We're going to smack him down now. So here they are, living large, living small, kind of at the opposite ends of the spectrum. So if you tried really hard, you might find a smaller smartphone than the iPhone 5S. Not really easy unless you're going back into, say, the iPhone, 4 land. And here we have the LG G3, not out yet as of this filming, but it will be out summer 2014. 5.5-inch display, so that puts it almost in phablet territory. But thanks to the really small bezels, it's not too humongous. It's manageable if you can tolerate and like a large phone. So that gets to the first point of our Smackdown right there. Do you want a big phone with a really big screen, or do you want something that is small, pocketable, easy to operate with one hand? Do you have small hands? Perhaps you do. Do you have small pockets? You don't want to get a new wardrobe just to suit your phone. That tells you which phone's for you right there. Now, both of these phones, in the case the iPhone already is available on every major carrier, and with the LG G3, it should be as well. So carrier shouldn't matter too much here. Next order of business is the actual screen. Now, when the iPhone 5S came out, it was a big deal, right? The whole Retina display thing. And, of course, the iPhone 5 too. And it's still a lovely display, 326 ppi pixel density. But the 1136 by 640 resolution is kind of, old school now. You know, they went from being the top of the heap there to not so much. Granted, it's a 4-inch display, so there's only so many pixels that maybe you would squeeze into something this small. It is still a beautiful, colorful display, pretty good color accuracy, really nice viewing angles. You can see it there. Still looks painted on, so it is a lovely display. But LG, with their crazy Quad HD display here, one of the first major brand phones to have that feature, really nice looking display, very sharp. Now, I would still say the iPhone, in terms of actual measurement using a colorimeter, does get brighter than this, but beyond that, it's really going to be the sharpness here. 2560 by 1440 pixels across 5.5 inches. You're talking over 500 ppi pixel density. It's the apex of sharpness available right now. Now, God knows, our eyes might not even be good enough to actually perceive pixel densities once they reach that level. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, I don't know. But anyway, it's a very sharp looking display. In terms of colors and viewing angles, I would say the iPhone still is the winner for me, but for sharpness, which really is an important thing, especially as you try to do things like view Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, and look at web pages, it's going to be nicer on the sharper display. And to give you an idea what the web browsing experience difference is like on the larger, higher resolution display, well, here it is, pretty obvious. We've got these both showing the same page right here, and it looks a lot more like the desktop version of a web page here, just because you can see much more. They are actually both looking at the desktop version of this web page. So how about audio? iPhone has its speaker down at the bottom here, same as ever. The LG G3 has its speaker back here. It's a 1-watt speaker. LG's kind of proud of that fact. So we're going to use Audible to test out audio playback. And a big shout out to Audible. They're our sponsor for this video. They're the big audiobook people with 150,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. They are owned by Amazon, so that makes them pretty trustworthy as well. I like listening to it when I'm at the gym, if I'm cleaning the pool and that sort of thing. So here we have Audible on Android. We also have the iOS version going on the iPhone, and both volumes are set at 3/4, and I'm going to play Cloud Atlas, which is a book that, God, how can you not love that? That is one of the most fascinating books. Yes, there's a movie too, but I really suggest you read the book.
This is Audible.
So
Books on Tape presents Cloud Atlas. Indian hamlet, upon a forlorn strand, I happened on a trail of recent footprints. Through rotting
so here's what it sounds
sea,
like.
Coconuts and bamboo, the tracks led me to their maker. A white.
And on our iPhone, same exact book, similar experience.
This is a maker. A white man. His trousers and pea jacket rolled up, sporting a kempt beard and an outsized beaver, shoveling and sifting the...
Notice how it syncs tracks between devices and different platforms, which is pretty cool. So what do you think of the speaker difference there? They're remarkably similar, I have to say, even though this little guy obviously has to have a smaller speaker there. Pretty much similar. And since Audible is our sponsor for this video, they have a offer for you guys. Go to audible.com/tech review to get your free book. You can get one free book to try out. Go ahead and give it a try. Now when we flip this over to the back, You might have noticed it looks sort of almost like metal. It's also a pretty curvy, very ergonomic device. It may be big, but tapers on the sides, makes it easier to hold. And it reminds me a little bit of the HTC One design, actually, but this is actually plastic. And of course, the iPhone, we know all about the iPhone. Beautiful metal unibody design. You've got some glass right here. Stunning. They're both actually quite thin phones. When it comes to size difference, no kidding, there's a huge difference in the size. Now, the iPhone actually looks thicker because it's squared off. It doesn't do any kind of tapering, which is a good idea with a smaller device. You need something to grip onto. And there's the thickness at the thickest point right there. So, in terms of materials and design, no kidding, once again, the iPhone is going to win because it is just a stunning looking piece of metal, glass, Leica-inspired loveliness. Now, for LG, this is their best looking phone yet. And there is a good thing here. The fact that the back is removable. You can actually take this back off and you can access the battery. 3,000 milliamp battery here. So for those of you who like to swap batteries, you hate carrying around those external charger packs that you have to use with something like the iPhone, that's a plus point. Also, there's a micro SD card slot here for storage expansion. Now, the LG G3 will be available in 16 and 32 gig storage capacity models. The iPhone, of course, is 16 or 32 or 64, the 64 being kind of really expensive there, but there is no expandable storage here. So for those of you who love to throw a whole lot of movies onto your SD card, for example, well, you know who you're going to like better. You're going to like the LG. Now, one more thing while we're talking about the back. LG, with their flagship phones, they like to do this. They like to put the controls on the back. That's your power button and your volume controls right there. I've never quite gotten used to it. I know some of you have. It's just a little bit weirder than actually looking at the side of the phone, and there are the controls a little bit more visible to you. We've got volume controls here. We've got our power button up top. So that's probably a small point. We can get used to anything, can't we? But, yeah, a little bit weird on the LG still. And then there's the gorilla in the room, and this is what's going to get you fanboys fighting with each other more than anything else. And obviously, it's what software platform you like better. iOS running on the iPhone or Android running on the LG. Both of these obviously running the latest version of their available operating systems right now, which is a great thing. And, of course, Android has the widgets home screen. This has your grid of icons. When you tap your little icon drawer, you get your icons on Android. They're both quite responsive, though they have very different CPUs inside, different amounts of RAM. The iPhone still has 1 gig of RAM. And for the LG, the 16 gig model has 2 gigs of RAM. The 32 gig model has 3 gigs of RAM. Apple has a slower clocked CPU, but it's a 64-bit CPU. This one has a faster CPU, quad-core, 32-bit. In the end, that really doesn't matter very much because the operating systems have different demands and different optimizations, and honestly, both of these are very fast and fluid, and the Tier 1 games that are available on both platforms run equally as well. So honestly, don't worry too much about feeds and speeds here when it comes to that. When it comes to the basic stuff, these both have it all. They have dual band Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, you get GPS inside. Apple still doesn't do NFC, so no NFC. You do get NFC on the LG G3. However, I'm not sure how many of you have actually found a use for NFC yet, but if it is important to you, then there you go. The LG G3 should support wireless charging. That's something, of course, that the iPhone doesn't support yet. When it comes to battery life, 3,000 milliamp battery in there, but you know what? It's a much bigger phone with a bigger display, isn't it? So it needs that battery. That said, the LG G3 has really, really impressed us with its battery life, especially for a phone that does have a fast quad-core CPU and a big super high-resolution display in there. It's one of the longest-running Android phones. I give it the edge over the iPhone 5S. The iPhone 5S is not bad when it comes to battery life, but it's kind of, you know, you get a day of use out of it unless you're a super heavy user, and that's about it. With the LG G3, you can really go longer than a day unless you're, you know, playing Real Racing 3 all the time. Lastly, we have cameras. Of course, the iPhone has its 8-megapixel camera on the back with the two-tone LED flash. Guess what? The LG G3 has a two-tone LED flash as well. That's all the rage now. 13-megapixel camera. A lot more bells and whistles going on with the LG. It has the laser focusing, which is pretty darn neat. Comes from their robotic vacuum cleaner division, that technology. And optical image stabilization, something I always loved, so it doesn't look like I was bouncing around when I'm shooting videos. The iPhone, Apple doesn't go with so many bells and whistles on there, but they always have an uncanny way of actually giving you a phone with a very simple user interface that takes really good photos and videos. It's just the way it is. There's not a whole lot of fancy stuff going on with the iPhone camera application. And this is what it looks like right here. If you've watched our video review of the iPhone or you've played with the friends, you know what it's like. We've got HDR mode, we have flash control here, swapping between our cameras, and a couple of different modes here. You can go between photo, video, square video. You can shoot full HD video with this. And that's about it for UI. But tap to focus. It's very close and very shiny, but it's still managing, and it did an HDR shot there. It's very quick. So let's take a look at the LG now. So here's the LG G3. Advantage, huge viewfinder there. Wow. Disadvantages, it's not quite as viewable outdoors as is the iPhone 5S. So if you're a big-time outdoor photographer, you might have trouble with this big, reflective, not super-duper bright display. Controls pretty straightforward here. Flash control, swapping between your front and rear cameras, choosing from modes. This is text-based descriptions here, but we've got panorama, dual camera. You can use front and rear camera, that sort of thing. And we have settings here, so you can get pretty involved with the settings here, including timers, resolution, grid for shooting, all that sort of thing. Very fast to focus, and notice it's using matrix effect there, and as quick as that. The laser focusing does help speed things up, particularly in low light. It can shoot up to 4K video. So far, I have not been really impressed with the video quality of this. It's not bad, but it's not super duper good. Not as good as, say, the Samsung Galaxy S5, particularly with 4K video. At 1080p video, I would actually prefer the iPhone 5S's video quality. When it comes to still photos, I mostly would prefer the LG G3. Higher resolution, optical image stabilization, you just get more usable data. Now, if you're only posting little pictures to Facebook, all that extra data might not matter as much to you, but still, for those of you who do care about that, this guy has a better still camera, but not better video. So there you have the salient points between these two phones, and I know you're going to ask me, which one would you pick, Lisa? That's a hard one. That's a real hard one for me because I like the pocketability of the iPhone 5S, but I love big displays, and I have big hands, so I can handle a big phone. So if I could only have one phone, I think I would lean towards the LG G3 for that Quad HD 5.5-inch display. I do like the Android customizability and the ecosystem, but the iPhone fights back with reliability, solidity, simplicity, all those sort of things, so I wouldn't mind carrying either phone either. So that's the iPhone 5S versus the LG G3 comparison, and goodness only knows what's going to happen with the iPhone 6, right? Maybe it's going to come back with kind of a bigger screen, probably so. But in the meantime, that's what you get from each of these devices. Either way, they're great devices. You know the story. I'm going to say it again because it's actually true. They are both great devices, but obviously very different. Hopefully now, given what you want, you know which one's for you. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full reviews of each of these phones and watch our video reviews. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.